The argument hit me right on the sidewalk just as I was waiting at my usual spot near the crosswalk. My daughter Corinne stormed toward me like a woman who'd just discovered her father had committed a federal crime instead of simply standing outside with a cane. "Dad, what are you doing here again?" she demanded. "You're 60, not 16. You can't be running around town helping random women cross the street." I rolled my eyes. "I'm not running around. I'm standing. And she's not random. Her name is Dottie. Randall, my son-in-law, joined her with that annoyed face he saves for me and his taxes." "Louis, this is silly. Why risk your back for someone you don't even know?" "I do know her," I said. "She's the only person lately who treats me like I'm still me." Corinne let out a breath sharp enough to cut glass. They'd been on my case ever since my doctor told them I had stress-related heart issues. A fancy way of saying I needed a break, but they turned it into a full-time surveillance program. And before I continue, subscribe. Tell me where you're watching from and how old you are. For you, it's a small thing, but for me, it keeps these stories alive. Across the street, I spotted her. Dottie, tiny figure, blue coat, wobbling a little, as she waved at me. My heart softened. Helping her wasn't a chore, it gave my day purpose. "Dad, don't," Corinne started, but I stepped off the curb anyway. Cars halted, the world paused, and for a few seconds, I felt like I still had the right to decide where my own feet go. When I reached Dottie, she didn't smile the way she usually did. Instead, she opened her purse with shaky fingers, pulled out a small photograph worn at the edges, and pressed it into my palm. "Louis, you need to see this," she whispered. "It's about your family." And the moment my eyes landed on that picture, my stomach dropped, because I recognized the face in it instantly, and knew something was terribly, terribly wrong. I stared at the photograph, and for a moment the world shrank to the size of that tiny square of paper. It was my son, Harvey, standing next to a woman I had never seen in my life, both smiling, both holding a newborn. But what froze me wasn't the picture, it was the date printed in the corner. 7 months ago. 7 months when Harvey told me he was working overtime out of town and couldn't help me after my hospitalization. I must have gone pale because Dottie tightened her grip on my sleeve. "Louis, I didn't know who else to give it to," she said. "I found it on the bench yesterday. I recognized him from the day he shouted at you on the phone in front of the bakery." "Ah, yes. Ah, 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 ah." That delightful moment when Harvey yelled so loudly that even a pigeon flew away offended. I swallowed hard. Why would he hide something like this from me? Dottie gave me a sad little smile. "Families can be strange. Mine once fought for 22 minutes because someone ate the last piece of pie nobody even liked." Despite everything, a laugh slipped out of me short. Bitter, but real. 22 minutes? That's impressive. "Yes," she said. "My cousin lost a tooth, and the pie turned out to be from last year's freezer." But my eyes drifted back to the baby in the photo, my grandchild, a grandchild I'd never been told about. I felt anger boiling low and deep, not loud, not explosive, but the slow, steady kind that makes your hands shake. Corinne and Randall were still across the street, looking like two annoyed traffic cones. They had no idea what was happening, no idea that my whole world had just been rearranged with one old photograph. "Dottie," I whispered. "Thank you. I need a moment." She nodded and said softly, "Take all the moments you need, but don't let them treat you like you're fragile. 60 isn't old. It's just seasoned." That made me cough a laugh. "Seasoned? Like a steak?" "Or a good pan," she said. "The more it's used, the better it cooks." But as soon as I turned around, Corinne marched toward me, face full of suspicion. "Dad, what did she give you?" she demanded. "What's that in your hand? A flyer? A bill? Some scam?" If only it were that simple. Because what Dottie gave me was the first crack in the lie my own children built around me, and the beginning of something they were absolutely not prepared for. Corinne yanked the photo out of my hand so fast you'd think it was a winning lottery ticket. "Dad, what is this supposed to be?" she snapped. already frowning at it, like it personally offended her. Her expression went through a whole slideshow: surprise, confusion, panic, irritation, and finally that tight fake smile she uses when she's about to lie. Dad, don't jump to conclusions. This could be edited, she insisted. Corinne, I said slowly, I'm 60, not a confused goldfish. The second he recognized Harvey in the photo standing with a woman and holding a newborn, his jaw dropped so wide a passing bird could have flown into it. That's Harvey, with a baby? And Corinne elbowed him so hard he wheezed. Randall, stop talking. Dad doesn't need stress. Oh, trust me, I said. Your brother already delivered the stress package himself. I tried to take the photo back, but Corinne hid it behind her like I was demanding state secrets. Dad, maybe Harvey had a reason not to tell you, she said quickly. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe he was waiting for the right moment. The right moment? I echoed. My son has a whole child, and somehow never found a moment to mention it to his own father. Corinne shifted uncomfortably. Dad, you know how Harvey is. He's complicated, I snorted. Complicated? Harvey is about as complicated as a toaster. You push one button, he pops up. Behind me, Dottie coughed a laugh. Corinne groaned, rubbing her forehead. Dad, please, don't do anything dramatic. You've had heart issues. My heart is fine, I said sharply. My heart is fine. My heart is fine. It's my trust that's having a crisis. Randall, still recovering from the elbow attack, cleared his throat. So, should we call him? I looked down at the photo, at that tiny child who shared my blood. A child I didn't even know existed. No, I said. Harvey's going to explain this to me face to face. And in that moment I wasn't just a father. I was a man who realized his whole family had been hiding something far bigger than a secret baby. I didn't wait for approval. I turned and started walking toward my house, cane tapping fast enough to sound like I was trying out for a marching band. Corinne and Randall hurried behind me like two parental chaperones chasing a teenager who just stole their car keys. Dad! Slow down. Corinne called. No, I said without looking back. If I slow down now, I might freeze in place and rethink my entire parenting history. When we reached my porch, I sat down hard on the steps. Not because I was tired, but because I needed a surface to slam the photo onto. Corinne flinched. Randall gasped like the photo was made of glass. I stared at the image. My son. A baby. A woman I'd never met. A whole secret life my own child decided I didn't deserve to know about. You know what hurts the most? I said quietly. Corinne sat beside me, bracing herself. That he didn't trust me with this, I continued. That he thinks I'm some fragile old man who'd faint at the sight of a diaper. Randall shrugged. Well, to be fair, diapers can be traumatic. I shot him a look. He raised his hands. Just saying, Corinne sighed. Dad, maybe Harvey thought he was protecting you from stress. Protecting me? I scoffed. What's next? Keeping me away from loud music, taking away my scissors. Randall glanced at Corinne. Honestly, the scissors thing might be reasonable. She kicked him again. I rubbed my temples. Corinne, I've lived through job layoffs, a mortgage crisis, your teenage boyfriend who tried to sell me herbal supplements. That was years ago, she snapped, embarrassed. He said they'd awaken my inner dragon. I spent 2 hours hiccuping mint smoke. Even she cracked a reluctant smile. But just as the tension softened, I felt the weight of the photo again. My voice dropped. I should have been there when that child was born. I should have held them. I should have met that woman. Harvey didn't just hide a baby. He cut me out of something I'll never get back. Corinne reached out to squeeze my hand, the first gentle thing she'd done all day. Dad, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I know you didn't, I said. But now we all do, and I'm done sitting quietly while my own kids decide which parts of life I'm allowed to know. I stood up. Not because I was weak, but because decisions this big needed a steady spine. Then I looked at both of them. We're going to Harvey's house. Randall gulped. Corinne blinked. Dottie, who had quietly followed us to the sidewalk, clapped her hands softly like she was cheering for a courtroom finale. I tucked the photo into my jacket, straightened my shoulders, and stepped off the porch. Whatever waited at Harvey's door, it was time to face it. The drive to Harvey's house felt longer than usual, even though it was only 20 minutes away. Corinne insisted on driving, apparently. My emotional state made me unfit to handle a steering wheel. Meanwhile, Randall sat in the passenger seat, looking like he was bracing for a natural disaster. I sat in the back, staring out the window, the photo warm in my pocket. Not because of the sun, because my anger was hot enough to cook an egg. Corinne glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Dad, promise me you won't yell. I don't yell, I said. I speak firmly with volume, Randall muttered. Same thing, earning himself another elbow. We pulled up to Harvey's place, a neat little townhouse with a lawn so manicured it looked like it had performance anxiety. Wind chimes jingled near the door, one of them shaped like a tiny duck. Typical Harvey, soft, peaceful, cute, except for the part where he hid a whole baby. I walked up the steps and knocked. Firm, steady, no hesitation. Harvey opened the door halfway and froze the instant he saw me. Dad, what are you doing here? His voice cracked on the last word, what? Which told me everything. He knew exactly why I came. Well, I said I was walking someone across the street, minding my own business, when the universe decided to hand me a surprise. I pulled out the photo and held it up. Care to explain? Harvey's face did something I'd never seen, a mix of guilt, panic, and the expression he used to make as a kid when he realized he'd eaten the cookie he was supposed to save for his sister. He stepped outside, shutting the door behind him like he was hiding a hostage. Dad, can we talk somewhere else, please? Not here. Corinne crossed her arms. Why? Who's inside? Harvey swallowed. No one. From behind the door, a tiny squeal echoed, definitely not no one. Randall raised an eyebrow. Sounds like your house is haunted by very small ghosts. I locked eyes with my son, Harvey. Open the door. He hesitated, sweeted, wiggled like his spine turned into spaghetti. Then finally he exhaled, defeated. Fine, he whispered. He pushed the door open, and my breath caught. Inside, standing awkwardly with a baby on her hip, was a young woman with tired eyes and gentle hands, the same woman from the photograph. The baby chubby cheeks, dark curls, bright curious eyes stared at me, like I was a commercial break interrupting their cartoon. For a second, everything went quiet. Even the wind chimes stopped. Then the baby sneezed, so forcefully that a tiny bubble of drool landed on Harvey's shirt. Corinne gasped. Randall whispered, "Powerful child." And I felt something inside me crack open. Not pain, not anger. Something else. Something I hadn't felt in years. The woman shifted the baby on her hip, clearly nervous. Harvey looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. Corinne stood frozen, mouth open like she was trying to catch snowflakes. Randall whispered, "She looks nice," which earned him another elbow to the ribs. I stepped inside slowly. The air smelled like baby powder and reheated pasta, a combination I hadn't smelled since my own kids were small. The woman gave a polite, shaky smile. "Hello, Mr. Lewis. I am Penelope." Her voice was soft, the kind that apologizes even when it hasn't done anything wrong. The baby stared at me with big brown eyes, then reached one tiny hand toward my face. And just like that, something inside me softened. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But something close to it. "Is that my grandchild?" I asked quietly. Harvey nodded, shoulders collapsing like a balloon losing air. "Yes, Dad. This is Nora. Nora." The name hit me like a gentle punch. A whole little universe standing right in front of me, and I didn't even know she existed. Penelope stepped forward. "I'm sorry you found out this way. I wanted to meet you months ago, but..." Harvey said it wasn't a good idea. Corinne's eyes snapped to her brother. "Oh, really?" she hissed. "And why exactly was it not a good idea, Harvey? Because Dad is what, too old? Too weak? Too fatherly?" "Corinne, please." "No, don't please me," she said. "You hide a baby for 7 months. And I'm the dramatic one?" Meanwhile, Randall gently leaned over to wave at Nora, who immediately grabbed his glasses off his face. "Ah, she's strong," he squeaked. Corinne didn't even look at him. "Put your glasses back on before you embarrass yourself." As chaos ensued around me, I couldn't stop staring at Nora. Her tiny fingers curled, uncurled, curled again like she was discovering how hands work for the very first time. And suddenly my throat tightened. "Harvey," I said quietly, "why didn't you tell me?" He rubbed the back of his neck. I thought you'd be disappointed. Or upset. Or, I don't know. I just panicked. I laughed, not a funny laugh, but the kind that comes out when your emotions get tangled. "Son, I've lived long enough to know disappointment. This isn't it." He glanced at me, eyes red. "I didn't want to mess anything up. I wasn't ready to be a dad. And I didn't want you to see me fail." "That's not how this works," I said. "When a baby arrives, nobody's ready. You just figure it out as you go, like learning to ride a bike while the bike's on fire and you're on fire." Penelope snorted, covering her mouth. "That sounds accurate." Harvey sighed, defeated. "I'm sorry, Dad." Before I could answer, Nora suddenly burped loudly, a confident, echoing burp no baby her size should be capable of. Randall blinked. "That was impressive," Corinne groaned. "If she burps louder than you, that's a serious red flag." I finally stepped closer to Nora, and she leaned toward me, not scared, not hesitant, just open and curious. And in that moment, my anger melted into something far more dangerous: love. Nora stretched her tiny arms toward me, and the moment I lifted her, something shifted inside my chest, like a door I didn't even know was locked suddenly swung wide open. She was warm, soft, perfect. And she didn't look at me like a stranger. She looked at me like she'd been waiting. Penelope wiped a tear from her cheek. "She likes you," she whispered. I swallowed. "Yeah, I can tell." Harvey stood off to the side, looking like a kid who'd finally confessed to breaking the living room window. "Dad, I really am sorry," he said again. "I thought you'd yell, or judge me, or say I wasn't ready." I bounced Nora gently. She made a tiny squeak, the kind that goes straight to the heart. "Harvey," I said, "you became a father. That's not something to hide. That's something to grow into." Corinne crossed her arms. "You should have told us, Harvey." "Diapers," Randall nodded. "I would have helped too." Corinne gave him a look. "Please. You passed out last time you changed a diaper." "No," he said proudly. "I merely fainted horizontally." Penelope laughed into her sleeve. I looked around the small living room, bottles on the counter, a stroller half assembled, 2 unmatched baby socks hanging on a lamp. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and real mattered more than perfection ever did. "Harvey," I said quietly, "I missed the birth of my granddaughter. I missed 7 months of her life. I missed everything I should have been there for." His face fell. "I know. And you cut me out because you were scared," I continued. "But you don't have to be scared of me. I'm your father, not a loan shark." Harvey looked at the floor. "I didn't want to disappoint you." I shifted Nora onto my shoulder. She promptly grabbed a fistful of my hair. "Ow, she's got a grip like a mechanic," I muttered. Penelope gasped. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." No, I said, wincing. "It's fine. My hairline has been disappearing for years. She's just helping it retire." Everyone laughed, even Harvey, though his eyes were wet. I softened my voice. "Son, hiding the truth hurts more than the truth itself." He blinked. "I'm sorry," I repeated, "but I'm glad you finally let me in." For a moment the room went quiet, just Nora's soft breathing against my shoulder. Then something unexpected happened. Nora leaned back, stared at me with wide eyes, and said a single tiny sound, "Duh." The entire room froze. Corinne clapped her hands over her mouth. Randall whispered, "Oh, man, that's going in the baby book." Penelope's eyes filled instantly. "She's barely said anything before." Harvey let out a shaky laugh. "Great. Her first word isn't even for me." I looked down at Nora, her big eyes blinking, that little mouth forming a proud half smile. In that tiny syllable, Duh. I felt something knit itself back together inside me. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Not Harvey, not Corinne, not Penelope. Even Randall stood still, which was remarkable, because he usually couldn't stay still unless he was unconscious. Nora rested her head on my shoulder, her tiny hand patting my shirt like she was inspecting me for structural damage. Something about that little rhythmic tap, it soothed something in me I hadn't realized was aching. Harvey finally cleared his throat. I guess she likes you, he said quietly. She has excellent taste, I replied. Corinne nudged him. Well, aren't you going to invite Dad to actually sit down instead of interrogating him on the doormat? Harvey blinked. Yeah, come in. I stepped farther inside, still holding Nora. She'd latched onto my collar with the determination of someone climbing Everest. Penelope wiped her eyes and gently touched my arm. I really wanted you to meet her sooner, she said softly. I even told Harvey that a father deserves to know. Oh, he knows I deserve things, I muttered. He just has a habit of pretending I'm a fragile snowflake. Harvey groaned. Dad, relax, I said. Snowflakes melt. I don't. We all settled into the living room, though settled might be too generous a word. Randall fell into an armchair, so deep it tried to eat him. Corinne started cleaning out of stress, and Harvey paced like he was waiting for a medical exam. Penelope sat beside me. You look surprisingly natural holding a baby, she said with a smile. I've had practice, I replied. 3 kids, 8 nephews, 1 neighbor's toddler who mistook me for a climbing frame. Harvey stopped pacing and looked at me, really looked at me, not as the dad he was scared to disappoint, but as the man who wanted to be part of something bigger than regrets. Dad, he said finally, I want you to be in Nora's life. I really do. I just needed time to figure things out. I nodded. Needing time is fine, I said. Cutting me out entirely isn't. Harvey winced. Yeah, I know. And I'm sorry. Truly. Before I could answer, Nora suddenly grabbed my nose with both hands, as if she'd discovered a new species. Her little fingers pinched with the enthusiasm of a crab. Ow, okay, gentle, my nose is not a steering wheel. Corinne burst out laughing. Randall snapped a photo. Harvey groaned. Randall, delete that. No, Randall said. This is going in the family group chat. Corinne rolled her eyes. So Dad's humiliation is family content now? Well, Randall shrugged. Better than the motivational quotes your sister keeps posting. But as the laughter died down, something shifted in the room. Harvey sat next to me. He looked at Nora, then at me, then at the photo still peeking from my jacket pocket. Dad, he whispered, voice cracking. Do you want to stay for dinner? Penelope nodded eagerly. We made chicken stew. Well, Harvey made it. Harvey groaned. Penelope, please. She grinned. I love you, but your cooking is a public hazard. I looked at all of them, my son. The woman who loved him, the granddaughter I'd just met, and my heart felt full in a way I didn't expect. Dinner sounds good, I said. Harvey let out a breath, long, shaky, relieved. But as I settled Nora into my arms again, a thought crept into my mind. One that wasn't angry, but sharp, clear, and impossible to ignore. If they hid something this big once, what else might they be hiding? And if I wanted the truth, the whole truth, I'd need to ask the question none of them wanted me to ask. Dinner smelled surprisingly good, which instantly made me suspicious, because Harvey's usual cooking could stun a raccoon at 10 feet. Penelope must have helped. Or done everything. Yes, that seemed far more likely. We all squeezed around the small kitchen table. Corinne took charge of serving the stew like a general distributing rations, while Randall hovered behind her, stealing carrot pieces directly from the pot until she smacked his hand with a spoon. Nora sat in a high chair next to me, chewing on a plastic giraffe with the intensity of a lawyer reviewing evidence. For a moment, everything felt almost normal, warm, comfortable. The kind of evening I'd imagined having when my kids grew up. But beneath that warmth, a question pulsed in my mind like a heartbeat. What else did they hide from me? I let the moment breathe for a minute. Then I cleared my throat. All right, I said. Someone explain why it took a random elderly woman at a bus stop to get me a picture of my own grandchild. Harvey winced. Corinne stiffened. Randall froze mid-chew. Penelope set down her fork like it suddenly weighed 10 pounds. Harvey looked down at his plate. Crime? Dad, there's more. Of course there was. There's always more. Secrets are like cockroaches, you never find just one. Go on, I said. He twisted his napkin nervously. I wasn't just hiding Nora, I was hiding us. He gestured vaguely between himself and Penelope. Penelope sighed. We got married, she admitted, quietly, a few months ago. Corinne gasped so loudly I thought her soul was trying to escape her body. You what? Harvey, I swear. Randall patted her shoulder. Honey, breathe. Breathe in through the nose, out through the nose. She smacked his chest. Don't tell me how to breathe. I blinked, stunned. You got married, without telling me. Harvey nodded miserably. Dad, we eloped. It was small, tiny, cheap. And honestly, I panicked. I didn't want to disappoint you. Disappoint me, I repeated. What could possibly disappoint me about gaining a daughter-in-law and a grandchild? Harvey rubbed his forehead like he was trying to iron out his guilt. You always talked about wanting to walk me down the aisle. About giving a speech. About family being together. I felt something punch the air right out of my lungs. Because yes, I did dream of that. But I also wasn't the kind of father who punished his kids for wanting a simple, small life. I swallowed. I wanted those things, yes, but you don't owe me a performance. You owe me honesty. There was a long silence. Then Randall, trying to be helpful, said, Well, at least the stew is good. Corinne shot him a glare that could have boiled his soup. Penelope leaned forward. Louis, we want you in our lives. Really. We were scared, but we're done hiding. Harvey nodded. No more secrets. I promise. I watched my son, his shame, his sincerity, the fear he'd carried for months. I looked at Penelope, steady, kind, hopeful. I looked at Nora, drooling proudly onto her giraffe. And just as my heart softened, a loud pop echoed through the kitchen. Nora had somehow launched her spoon across the room. It hit Randall squarely in the forehead. He yelped. Corinne burst into laughter. Penelope gasped. Harvey looked like he wanted to evaporate. And I laughed so hard my ribs hurt, because that moment spoon and all felt like the universe saying, this is family messy, ridiculous, flawed. But yours. Ma. But even with all the laughter, something in my gut told me the biggest revelation was still ahead. After dinner, when the dishes were stacked and the kitchen had finally quieted down, I stepped outside onto the small backyard patio. The air was cool, the sky soft and blue, and for the first time in months, I felt like my lungs were filling properly. Harvey followed me out, hands in his pockets, shoulders tight. Dad, he said quietly, I really messed up, didn't I? I didn't turn right away. Sometimes silence says more than anger ever could. You didn't mess up by having a child, I finally said. You messed up by believing your father wouldn't want to be part of her life. He exhaled shakily. I thought you'd think I was irresponsible. You became a parent, I said. That's the opposite of irresponsible. That's stepping into chaos willingly. He huffed a tiny laugh. Yeah, chaos is the right word. I put a hand on his shoulder. Listen, what you did hurt me. Deeply. But you're still my son. And Nora is my granddaughter. Nothing changes that. He nodded, eyes glossy in the dim porch light. I'm sorry, Dad, truly, no more secrets. Ever. I'll hold you to that, I said. We went back inside. Corinne and Randall were cleaning up. Well, Corinne was cleaning up. Randall was mostly trying not to drop things. Penelope was rocking Nora gently, humming something soft and warm. When Nora saw me, she reached out both arms. Without thinking, I took her. And standing there, holding that tiny life against my chest, I realized something. I hadn't just gained a granddaughter. When Nora saw me, I hadn't just gained a granddaughter. I'd gained a second chance at connection, at family, at being the man I always wanted to be for my children. The anger faded. The disappointment softened. The fear dissolved. What was left was love. Simple, steady, real. Penelope smiled at me. Louis, would you like to be part of her everyday life? Babysitting? Visits? Holidays? Everything? My throat tightened. I'd like that more than you know. Corinne stepped beside me, softer now, calmer. Dad, we're all going to do better. All of us. Randall nodded. Yeah, and I promise to childproof the house. And myself. You're a hazard unsupervised. Everyone laughed. And as we stood there, my son, my new daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, my loud daughter, my clumsy son-in-law, something settled inside me. The kind of peace people spend years searching for. I kissed the top of Nora's head. She smelled like baby powder and hope. This wasn't the future I expected, but it was better, richer, messier in all the right ways, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone.